Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 7-Minute Workshop. If you've never joined us before, this is a series where we chat with experts and we break down complex topics that affect or maybe should affect your business in just 7 minutes. You know what? I meditated for 8 minutes this morning and it really helped me focus. So just think what this workshop, which is 1 minute less than that, will do for your life. And that's all the legal people here have told me I'm allowed to say. Okay, last week we kicked off this month's theme, analytics, what it is, what it's not, and why you should care. And today I will be teaming up with our VP of Product Management and Engineering for Suite Analytics, Joav Bally, as well as our Senior Product Marketing Manager, Marc Holliday, to take our next step with the analytics discussion. We'll be talking about how to start improving your data analytics. We'll discuss the next step to improving data literacy, understanding the right data to capture, using a data warehouse to do so, and much more. Now, a quick reminder before we get started. If you have any questions throughout today's discussion, you can ask them in the comments and we'll get to them at the end of the conversation. And don't forget, tell us where you're tuning in from. We know that you come here from all parts of the world, and we love that, and we love to give you a shout out right back. And if you have any advice, any experience with analytics, don't hesitate to add your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to share your knowledge and insight as well. Okay, now please join me in welcoming Joav Bally and Marc Holliday. Hi, Joav. Hi, Marc. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Fritz. Thank you for having me back.
Hey, Fritz. Hey, great to be back here.
Okay, well, you know, Joav, we touched on data literacy last week, and I want to take that a little bit further. What are the steps that people can take to improve data literacy?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Fritz. I think, data literacy for me is a new skill. It's a skill to learn to create, read, understand, and communicate data. And I think one of the first things to acquire the skill is to acknowledge that that is a new competency that many people need to acquire. Like reading, we need to be able to read and explain data. So for me, the first step, as in any literacy project, is to make sure you understand the alphabet. Which is data, and then to understand what you try to convene with data. And this is not just to show data and more data and a lot of data, which we data nerds like to do. I could easily produce a 100-slide PowerPoint deck with a lot of beautiful visualization, and after that 100 slides you forgot everything, because the important thing is really to come up with information and insights. So we are using data to convene a message in order to improve the business, and that really is the key. So in order to leverage data to be able to do so, there are tons of information in the internet, on the internet, and a book that really helped me to become much better in synthesizing data and bringing across information it's called Storytelling with Data. And everybody who is interested in learning the data literacy skill, I would strongly recommend starting there and spending some time there and just build some presentation and try how to tell a story. Try to learn how to tell a story with data.
As a storyteller myself, I like to think of myself that way. It's music to my ears. Now, one of the things you just talked about is all the data that is out there. What data should I capture, and how do I go about doing that?
So you should capture everything. Even if you don't know today when and if you will need it, there is a reason why many people say data is the new oil. There is so much information that can be derived out of data that it would be a shame not to try to capture as much as possible. But again, data is just one piece to the puzzle. It's not having a lot of data, is making sure you derive the right insight, you capture the right information out of data, and then you are taking the right actions, you implement them correctly, and you basically make sure that what you've taken as an action really improves the business.
I was going to ask if data is the new oil, who are the cartels? But that's maybe a different show. Marc, if I can ask you, how do you see a database, for those who may not be as steeped in this, different from a data warehouse and different from a data lake?
Yeah, so a data lake is one of those new emerging concepts, and what that really has to do with is bringing structured data together with unstructured data. Structured data is anything in a database, anything in a spreadsheet. Unstructured data is the tougher set of data, things that rely in emails or in documents. Bringing those together to try to understand new things about your data, see new patterns, and get more data literate, as Joav had said. A data warehouse, on the other hand, is really designed for analytics. And the real power of a data warehouse is bringing multiple sources of data together and also normalizing data. If you think about a customer record or an employee record, you may have those living in multiple systems, but getting one simple record together in the warehouse so you can do your analysis is something a warehouse can help with. And then lastly, the database is really there to process transactions. It moves data through an application, whether it's an expense report or a sales order. It moves data through the system so that people can transact and complete their transactions. So it's more fluid in a database, whereas in a warehouse, your data is a little bit more stationary.
And so why do companies use a data warehouse?
They're trying to answer questions about what could happen next, or to try to compare things to the outside world. So if you take example of asking yourself the question of how competitive is my comp and benefits packages that I'm offering to candidates, you could look at your HR data and find that out, but you're not going to be able to understand what that is in the general market and by different regions. So bringing external data in to help answer that question is really what people use a warehouse for. Many other use cases. If you're a products-based company, you have a website. You acquire a new customer, they place that first order. But how much time passes before they place that second order? And more importantly, what can you do to compress that time to get more repeat customers sooner rather than later? So all kinds of use cases around a data warehouse, but a lot of it has to do with bringing multiple sources of data together, both internal and external, to help answer questions.
And kind of to that point, like when or at what point would a company need a data warehouse? I mean, certainly somebody just starting up and getting their business off the ground, they wouldn't need one, would they? I mean, is it really for just bigger businesses, or how does somebody know they need one?
I would say when they're not able to answer those, what I would call those bolder questions, when they can't understand why a certain project team delivers projects on time and on budget more than others. But when they mash up, calendar information with project teams, they could see that the teams that are performing the best are spending fewer hours in meetings and actually doing the work. I mean, they may discover that project teams that really excel spend 25% less time in actual meetings and more time doing the work, is one indication. And then the other indicator would be if they can't get the answers, or they're not confident in the answers they're getting by mashing it all up in spreadsheets. If you have more than one source of information to run your business, most companies have an accounting system, most companies have a website, and really trying to understand the correlations between the two really makes you a candidate for a data warehouse today, especially with cloud technology, bringing it down into smaller companies at a more affordable price.
Yeah, and I think Joav, Marc has kind of sold me on the wonderfulness of a data warehouse, but maybe you could tell us why the heck doesn't everybody have one?
Yeah, that's a good question. But I also don't think everybody needs one to start with, right? I'm never a fan of starting with technology first. I think you need to start with a process and a methodology and a data-driven culture first. And once that is established, the technology will follow. I think many business professionals, especially in the SMB space, their first tool to interact with data is through Excel. And I like Excel. I use it a lot, and Excel really gives you the confidence and total control of your own data, and it allows you to slice and dice and to get your first set of insights. Once the company grows, and once the amount of data grows, and once, as Marc says, the complexity goes, you very sure will reach the boundaries of what Excel can do. And that's then when the data-driven culture is in place, and leadership and stakeholders of a company will just ask for better insights faster and more complex insights faster. That's when that culture has already been put in place. Making a switch to a data warehouse and getting that insights direct from a data warehouse and being able to get more complex questions answered through the data warehouse is usually a much more natural step than being forced by technology evangelist that says everybody has a data warehouse, so we will have one too. You might not get the buy-in from business, and then these projects tend to fail, which is a shame.
We're going to open this up to some questions from the audience for those tuning in. If you have questions, put them in the comments, and also keep shouting out. We have one shout out so far from Angela in Dallas, Texas. Thank you for joining us. We know we have people from all over the world. We always do. Let's hear from you and let us know your name and where you're tuning in from. We'll do our best to say hello and also answer any other questions that people have. Okay, so first up, and maybe we can geek out for a little bit here, Marc. What are some of the technology underpinnings of a data warehouse?
Yeah, let's to keep the conversation kind of simple, I'll break it down into three different layers of analytics. There's the data layer. That's where the plumbing of the data, that's where the data actually gets transformed from its raw state or structured state into a multi-dimensional state inside the warehouse. And that's where you apply your metadata to categorize your data to really start learning about it. The next layer is called the semantic layer. And the semantic layer is really the layer that turns what can be at times very cryptic database language into common business language. So it makes it really easy for an analyst to go in and be able to pick a customer record or a revenue record or an item record without having to know the database name for it. And then lastly, the visual layer is where you see a lot of the charts and dashboarding that really bring the data to life to make it a lot easier to not only understand, but also explore, and using things like machine learning and artificial intelligence to train to see other patterns that might not be as obvious to a human analyst's eye. So those are really the three layers of an analytics warehouse.
And you just mentioned dashboards and the notion of or product or capability of business intelligence gets talked about a lot. Can you just kind of juxtapose why I can't just use a BI dashboard and versus using a data warehouse?
Yeah, I mean, dashboards are great, but a lot of times dashboards are single-threaded. They're only looking at one side of the picture, one source of data. And when you talk about bringing in all kinds of data, we talked a lot here about business application data, but there's economic data, there's market sizing data, there's all kinds of different data that can be used in the warehouse to correlate that with, that would give you a better view or a different view than just a single dashboard on a single source of data. So the warehousing can really bring that extra dimension or many dimensions to the dashboard to give you new context and new insights.
Hey, Joav, we talk a lot about the cloud here at NetSuite. Is a cloud data warehouse, is doing data warehousing in the cloud better than on premises? And if so, why?
Yeah, I think there are clearly a couple of advantages, again, especially for small and medium-sized businesses to use data warehousing or analytics overall in the cloud. It's a cost aspect. You get the technology hosted for you on the cloud. You do not have to worry about purchasing hardware, fine-tuning hardware, getting the right hardware to run your analytics queries on, and you just get that provisioned for you and updated for you and maintained for you on the cloud. I think we've seen, unfortunately, during the pandemic over the last 18 months and more, how due to the pandemic, a lot of businesses were dealing with sales and revenue issues, and those who were able to reduce certain amount of costs, especially hardware costs, and pivot to the cloud and be able to move their business to the cloud and having other providers taking care of maintenance and upgrade, they fared very, very well, and we're more pandemic agnostic there. Also, for small and medium-sized business, it's not only the IT and the hardware and the costs of that, it's also the security. The cloud providers for analytics, they really know how to keep your data secure, how to make sure it does not get into the wrong hands. So for me, these three areas clearly are big benefits for customers to look into analytics and data warehousing in the cloud first.
Yeah, and I have one other question for you, Joav. Why do we see data warehousing projects fail? Typically, what are some of the reasons that might happen?
Yeah, I think the number one reason I see is unrealistic goals from the get-go. Too big to fail projects. I think the successful data warehouse projects that I'm seeing are the ones where there is a clear business goal or a clear insight goal. And it's fine to have a list of insights, right? But you need to prioritize them. You need to pick the right one to start. Get the data into the data warehouse periodically that you need in order to answer this question, and make sure that your business is fine with the insight and the information that they get. They familiarize themselves with the BI technology. They familiarize themselves with how to read, interpret, and react on that data. And once they have that for a specific case, then you grow and you add more data and you add more insights that your analytics tools shows you to it. And this is how you gain more confidence as a business. The business professionals will be happier with the results that they are getting, and overall the project has a higher likelihood of success.
Yeah, that's great advice, and we could probably apply some of that to almost any implementation of new technology. So, well, that is all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Joav and Marc. Great having you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. We'll do that again.
Yeah, thank you, Fritz.
And thank all of you for tuning in. We'll see you right back here next week to discuss how AI and machine learning can augment your analytics. And that is happening on November 16th at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. We'll see you there.